Now, y'all have talked and shook your heads, but we haven't heard what you said.
Frank, come up and address the board, please.
The original, not the original, the amended had $78,000 for the Bowling Green Annex. It was my understanding that included the availability fee.
Okay, so 41 and 35, and that's 76,000. So that could very well have been.
Yes.
That could very well have been.
And that was already a project that was approved before the 819. The 819 that's left, that's already taken care of in the upper part.
Okay, that was my question.
Except that we actually made a motion that night to approve the schools going forward with the repair and connecting to public utilities, and we deferred any action on the fees. So now I guess if that was already in their budget, why were we even making a motion to allow them to go forward when they already had the ability to do that?
I didn't know what the actual cost was going to be. The list that was originally approved had $78,000 for the Bowling Green Annex, and that was what was done back in November or August, whenever it was. But that was just a number they had, and it wasn't broken down as to whether part of it was construction, part of it was availability fee, or anything. It just had $78,000 for the project, and that's all they had. The other night, when y'all were talking about, was the first we actually heard what the construction cost of it was going to be. They just had $78,000 that was approved in the revised list.
We probably need to find out those particulars as to, you know, it may have been included and they were just coming to us to get us to waiver the fees, and then they could throw that $35,000 back.
I think that's probably more the case.
The amount of leftover money. Ah, here comes Mr. Borscher. He's going to straighten it all out for us.
Add the utilities 2 cents. The request from the school board was to waive the fees, which we addressed in our memo and things. As I recall, what the board did was approve them to go ahead with connection and essentially say, but be prepared to pay the fees and find some place to get the money from. But I don't think the board actually specified where the money was going to come from, just that the school board should find which fund they were going to take it out of.
Ms. Hatch was telling me they had already included that into their cost, the $78,000, and because $41,000 is that the construction cost? Because they're hooking onto the town of Bowling Green, right?
They're hooking onto our line that goes down to
Goes to the town of Bowling Green, and the construction cost was $41,000.
I believe that's what they said was the construction cost, yes.
And so the other 35 was availability fees. So it had already been included in their budget. Okay, I see what they were doing. Okay.
It sounds like it probably was.
Yeah, right, okay. Okay. Thank you, Ms. Hatcher. I guess my other question is, you know, how much more of this money are they going to use on renovation of the schools? And also, it appears they have a couple of $100,000 left over in Lewis Clark. $250,000, almost $245,000, according to this.
They do not have a couple $100,000 left over in Lewis and Clark. We still are holding a retainage. They will use up that whole $200,000 for the retainage.
Okay.
But I seem to recall, and you may not remember this, Fran, that their retainage or their, I forgot what they actually referred to it as, their, the word that keeps coming to my mouth is not the one I wanted, but it was their discretionary fund or whatever, is they had to come back to the board to ask for permission to spend that.
Fund is what you're talking
Contingency, yeah, there was another word that kept popping up, I'm thinking, that's what it was. So I don't understand how they're going to use that money when that money is supposed to come back to the board before it gets spent.
The cost that I came up with for Lewis and Clark, in agreement with Clota Gerhardt. Because when I got here, I had to
Right.
recompile everything. There was things that were spent on the project that were not in the original list. And what they have left, they're gonna have to pay for the retainage. The last bill we got on showed still 400 and some odd thousand for retainage to be paid to the contractor, but there are credits that they haven't issued yet back against it. But everything I'm hearing from Clota is that it's gonna be, what little bit's left in the Lewis and Clark is gonna have to go to branch and to MVP.
Okay, Mr. Chairman, I insist that we talk to the school board or one of their representatives before we spend that money, because they had basically said, we will come back to you and ask you before we spend any of this contingency money. Because I remember directly not wanting to give them a 5 or 10% contingency as part of the project, but made the compromise that we would if they came back and told us that they needed it before they spent it. And it appears to be a case where it's been spent before we were made aware of it.
How about a list of what it was spent on?
That's really the,
You don't
I
care?
have to get past the first problem before I get to
Okay.
the second one.
Okay. All right, we will, you can have, see if you can,
Now, you can ask
Dr.
them
Killo
to
at
give
the
you a
next
list
meeting.
of what.
Yeah,
I
I'm
do
gonna-
have a breakdown of all the cost for Lewis and Clark.
I'd also like to know, okay, the 400,000, where'd it go? On what? I think that's a fair question. If they're gonna say, well, we spent it on the building, and there, and that was an issue we did discuss a year ago. What did it get spent on?
well, now, let us talk about the contingency fund. Generally, the contingency fund is about 10%, 5 or 10% of a project. Is that correct or incorrect?
That's right, Mr. Chairman.
Right.
That's the number that I remember.
Right. And so we need to find out. I do remember a conversation, and I know that something happened at a meeting that we had, that you had in January, where I was out sick and I was not at that January meeting, and it had to do with the funding issue. But when we first went out and borrowed the funds for the school, there was $2 million or whatever the number was, including it for contingency issues and items. And I do remember us talking and saying, you need to come back to this board and get permission to spend as we go along. Now, my question is, have they come back to this board and justified $2 million of contingency fund spending?
Right.
That would be my issue and my question. But I do remember that. I do remember that we were not going to give them a blank check of 10% of $22 or $20 million, saying you can use that as far as contingency funds. But I need to know when they were spent and how they were spent, that 10%, which is about $2 million in the contingency items.
Right, because specifically, and I can see him like it was yesterday, but the architect stood right there and said, we need this contingency fund because there's always change orders. And I said specifically, if you've made this building like it's supposed to be, there shouldn't be, we're not going to give you $2 million, period. And that was before you came. I'm not saying it was.
Yeah, I inherited it.
You know, I'm not right. You inherited, so we really want to make sure that, and I guess we should have made sure ahead of time that you're aware of this. I'm not saying there's a problem. I'm not saying there's an issue. I just expected them to come back and say, yeah, I need $400,000 for a new HVAC unit or whatever, and I'd say, okay, fine.
Yeah.
But I'm wondering what happened to the contingency fund, and I think we owe it to everybody to figure out what happened.
So it's a question of budget.
It's a question of, if I find $2 million that I didn't have before, that's wonderful. If I find $2 million that disappeared that I was counting on, that's really not wonderful. And I'm not really a nice guy when you do stuff like that. So we need to figure out what happened, one way or the other.
I can give you what I have, but I never saw the original budget that showed a contingency.
I think
And
we
what
need to
I
see what they
inherited,
have.
I got from Courtney, and that's what I've been working with since I've been here.
Budget, budget, budget.
So, Mrs. Hatcher, you're going to get with Clodagh because he's retiring soon, right? End of this month?
He's already retired.
He's already gone. He retired yesterday. Well, don't give it Clodagh. Forget about that.
Well, that's why I
But
said-
certainly get with Dr.
That's gonna be
Killo.
convenient.
And that's another issue that we will certainly address, is that Dr. Killo inherited that issue. That was Dr. Jones that
I understand it
Mr.
was,
Thomas spoke directly to about the contingency.
I understand completely. It was, but he,
And
He
I don't
took it
have
over.
anything that says contingency on it.
Okay.
I got, what I
That's the
have,
first thing we need to look at,
is
is
from
was there a
Courtney.
contingency fund? Because Mr. Thomas was very, very adamant that night in saying that you don't need a fund for change orders, and I think that was what was being discussed, maybe more than the word contingency.
And you recall that
I
conversation,
do, and
yes.
I'm whispering over here to Mr. Akers. I don't know if there was actually a contingency line item placed in the original budget. Now, they had to go back and borrow more money to complete the school, if you recall. Now, there could have been a little bit put in at that time. But I can tell you what, this 400,000 or 500,000 that's in question right now is all about the faulty construction of the school. And the superintendent is not paying the balance of the money that is owed to the contractor until that, the floor in the cafeteria and other things are repaired up to the standard in which the contract said.
I guess my question is, we keep talking about $400,000 or better. This is only $245,000. So where's the other $150,000? So-
it's my understanding from Dr. Kilo that there are credits back. Clodagh has assured me, and so has Dr. Kilo in a couple meetings we've had, what remains to be paid to the contractor is about $245,000, $250,000.
All right, I believe, Mr. Ashcraft, you're going
I
to
will,
get
sir.
with Dr. Killo, have him be at the board meeting on the 13th, 7:30 or so, and we'll ask those questions then, and we can see where we go.
We'll get the project budget as well and
Yeah.
make sure
Yeah.
that there is a contingency.
All I'm trying to do
Clarify that.
here is determine whether all this money that's been borrowed is going to be used. If not, then we need to do something with it. We need to pay it back, or we need to apply it to this other amount of money that they are requesting or needing for the high school. We need to apply this money toward the high school construction, or whatever. It just does not need to be sitting there and just use it piecemeal whenever somebody gets the idea that they want to do something to a particular school. That we don't need. Okay? Thank you. You know, the other issue, to be quite honest, and I think that the board has to come to grips with this. The board at some point is going to have to say, this $1 million for the Sparta Volunteer Fire Department. It's sitting there, I don't think it's quite $1 million now, but it's close to $1 million.
945, I
Right,
believe.
955. We're paying $49,000, or we're paying something there about an interest a year on that money. We need to pay that money back. Just say, okay, the Sparta Fire Department's going to have to put on hold for a while until the economy picks back up and we go back out. But I think we just cannot keep letting that money sit there, and we paying interest on that money constantly. That, to me, does not make sense. And we've said that with the economy the way it is, we are cutting back on expenditures and capital projects, and I think that makes sense with the economy. Everything in the conference, in the meetings I was in the last couple of weeks, the supposedly experts, if you will, have said we've not seen anything yet at the local government level. The state train wreck has not happened yet. That they are projecting and forecasting not until 2011, the real train wreck for the state taking place. Well, if we're hurting now, and the train hasn't wrecked, what in the world are we going to do in another 2 years when the train does wreck on the state level and there's shortage of funding? So again, I think we need to be honest with ourselves. It may be not issues we want to talk about, may not be issues that we'd like to talk about, but we've got to pay our bills. Simple as that. We don't have the luxury of the federal government to just make money when we want it, and we are required by state law to balance our budgets and to pay our bills. And so we've got to do those things. So that is an issue. We've got to stop just letting it go, deal with it, and move forward. Okay? All right. Anybody else got any questions?
Mr. Chairman, you want me to complete the
Complete what?
information? The information? A couple things?
Yep.
Of importance?
Go ahead.
Last meeting, Chief Lehman updated the board on the H1N1 situation in the county, and the health department finally has received an adequate amount of the vaccine in which it could administer to the public at large. That will start tomorrow and continue on to Thursday at the health department offices. The time will be 8 to 12 on Wednesday for walk-ins, and on Thursday from 4:30 to 7:30. That was p.m. The vaccinations are for ages 6 to 24, or adults over age 24 with chronic conditions. And those conditions are defined by the health department. And the key here is they really would, especially on Thursday, would ask the public to have advance appointments by calling the health department phone number, which is 804-633-5465. And people without appointments may still be seen, but they may experience waiting. And then they're also hoping to have other clinics on December the 10th and December the 17th, which could be for the public at large of all ages. Not children, not chronic adults, but anyone who would want to receive the vaccine. They're hoping to have it on those two dates, and we'll keep everyone posted on the county's website. Mr. Chairman, a couple other things. I don't know if the board members received this correspondence or not, but Mike Mastropolo, who for over 40 years served as in the Juvenile Justice 15th District Court Service Unit. He retired as of yesterday. He joined Mr. Gearhart in his retirement, and he has sent a letter that I will let the board look at to let you know how much he appreciated serving the citizens and particularly the youth of Caroline County. Mr. Chairman, as you know, this is the last board meeting of the year. There are a number of calendar items in your packet that I won't go over every one of them, but I think some are significant. On Thursday at 6 o'clock is the annual Senior Citizens Gala. That's always been well attended by not only the board, but the senior citizens who benefit from that. The Rotary Club of Caroline is a sponsor of that, and they've received some funding from the county just recently to assist with that they are very appreciative of. On Saturday is the Holiday Bazaar that is sponsored by the Friends of the Library. That normally is held the same day as the Bowling Green Holiday Parade, but this year it has been split. The bazaar is this Saturday starting at 9:30, and it will be in the gymnasium in the EOC area. And then next Saturday at 5 o'clock is the Bowling Green Parade, in which, Mr. Chairman, you will be one of the judges for the floats that will be on display. And also want to remind the board that there is a kind of a split meeting with the Sheriff's Office on December the 10th. At 3 o'clock is the award ceremony in which they recognize their own for overachievement within the department. They always have that in the afternoon, and then at 6:30 p.m., the Citizens Police Academy will graduate its first class, and that is to be held, I believe, in in the EOC. Board members are invited to both of those, and Mr. Chairman, I guess you've been asked to give remarks. I'm not sure if it's at both or one. They're counting on that.
Okay.
I believe that's it, Mr. Chairman. Just finally, before you ask for board comments, 12 months have gone by, and your leadership has again advanced the county in difficult times. Staff has appreciated your assistance in guiding us, and we thank you for every professional courtesy that you've bestowed upon us, and wish you and your family, as well as the other board members, a very happy holiday season and a great 2010.
Thank you. Closing comments, Mr. Popowitz?
Yes, sir. I did want to, I know it was on the consent agenda, but I wanted to thank the board for adopting the resolution for the Appreciative Mattaponi Hunt Club and the Wounded Warrior Program. I think that that's a great program, and I wanted to mention again, I know there was an article in the Caroline Progress, which we certainly appreciated, but I attended that event, and I'll tell you what, those guys are something else. And we are really thankful that those guys were there, that we could share time with them.
Mr. Thomas?
You find it hard to believe, but I have no comment.
Mr. Seeley?
One comment, one question. We have our annual Christmas party for the county. Are we going to use the same budget we used last year? Same sort of number for the budget for that?
Yeah, we have a little bit in the special events line. It's been going the last couple months for some Halloween issues or some things and that, but we do have enough, I think, to give the employees their party, yes.
So we know where it's coming from?
Yes.
That's my only question.
Yes.
You want to be fed, right?
Just want to be fair to everybody.
Good question.
He
Mr. Roselle.
said fed. He said not fed. He
I want
said
to be
fed.
fair.
Mr.
Yeah, I
Roselle?
would certainly say ditto to what Mr. Ashcraft said. A good year. You know, a lot has gone past in the last year. We appreciate your leadership, and not only that, but for the years of all the extra meetings and things that we've had, staff, you know, taking the extra time and going to meetings at night, and you know, we really appreciate what you guys do. You know, a lot of times people aren't always happy with you, but for the most part, you guys make my job a whole lot easier, and appreciate what you do. I know you work hard. All the board members, I think, would agree to that. So, but I think it's just the right time to say that. So, thank you guys.
Thank you, Mr. Roselle.
Thank you. Let me say it has been a pleasure in the past year to serve as chairman of this board. We've had our good times and we've had our bad times. There's no question. But overall, I think that we've had a good year. I think we've had a successful year. I certainly want to thank staff. Yeah, I've come down hard on a couple of staff members from time to time, but it doesn't mean I don't appreciate you. I tremendously appreciate you, appreciate what you do for the people I represent, as well as the people of this county. And as I say to the people at my constituent meetings, each and every time, and the ones of you that attend know I say this, we have the best staff in Caroline County, and I would put up our staff to any other locality anywhere around. You're just heads above many other localities, and for a county our size, I think you're totally heads above. And we appreciate it. The people in the county, I think the citizens appreciate what you do, and the fact that you are so dedicated to your job and to the people that live in this county. Mr. Ashcraft, I want to say to you, you know, sometimes it's hard. It's hard to have 5 different people pulling at you at the same time and pulling at you with different thoughts and different ideas. But you handled it quite nicely and quite professionally. And I appreciate you for that and appreciate what you do. It's no secret. He's probably one of the lowest paid county administrators in the region. And I do hate that because he works harder than many of the county administrators in this region. You saw it in the paper. I'm not telling you anything that's not true. But the fact, he's always been dedicated. And oftentimes when we talked about increases, he said, no, I don't want it. So he's been really great for this county. And we should be extremely thankful. This board should be extremely thankful to have Mr. Ashcraft as county administrator in Caroline County because he serves us well and protects us and serves the citizens of this county well. I look forward to the next years, or the years to come. I look forward to next year, the chairman, whoever that may be, and know we'll have a good year working together. And I think we have worked together well over the last several years and as a board, and I appreciate that fact. All right, having said that, is there a motion to go into closed meeting?
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman. I make a motion that we move to closed meeting pursuant to consultation with legal counsel and briefing by staff exemption, section 2.2-3711A7 of Code of Virginia, to discuss actual litigations where cases such as consultation and open meeting would adversely affect the litigation posture of the public body counsel involving Aqua Virginia rate case currently pending before the State Corporation Commission, and to discuss specific legal matters requiring the provision of legal advice of counsel, specifically regarding public utilities.
Is there a second?
Mr. Chairman, I'm going to make a second to Mr. Rozell's motion. If I could ask Mr. Rozell to include personnel regarding a position that has recently come open, if that's okay.
Is there?
Is that okay, Ann?
We can add personnel under the applicable section of 2.2,
Okay.
3711, and I don't recall. There you go.
Is it
That section.
3711A1, right? Yeah, I thought 1 was personnel. Okay, thank you.
All right. You
And
heard the motion?
I would amend my motion to the personnel
Is this,
Yeah.
Mr. Thomas, you,
for the open position.
all right? Yeah, okay. Discussion of the motion. All in favor, vote by saying aye.
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 All opposed, nay. Motion's carried. The board will now enter closed session.
So moved. Second.
Motion by Mr. Seeley, seconded by Mr. Rozell. Discussion of the motion. All in favor, vote by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. The motion's carried. Mr. Popowitz, do you certify that we only discussed the closed meeting with what we said we were going to close mission for, or closed meeting for?
I so certify.
Mr. Thomas?
I so certify.
Mr. Rozell?
I so certify.
I so certify as well. I have one other issue that I want to ask the board to be considering for the beginning of the year. And that is, it's been determined it cost the county about close to $1,800, somewhere between $1,500 and $1,800 per meeting for the various things. Taping of the meeting, other issues, county attorney being here, other overtime that we have, plus the miscellaneous expenses that we have with that, each meeting. The question is, do we want to try during, let's say, January, February, and March, having one meeting a month to see how will it work in 1 months, and then evaluate it and see if it's working or it's not working. Certainly, when it comes April, we're going to have budget meetings. We understand that February, we're going to have budget meetings, we understand that. But as far as regular meetings, looking at having one meeting a month during those 3 months, during that 3-month period, to see it. If that's something the board wants to consider, then I think that Mr. Ashcraft can put into his beginning year report as to the dates that we're going to have, meeting dates and other information that we put back to give them. Something you want to think about for the next month, then we can do that, and then at the meeting we have in January, we can amend his recommendation as to what we do during those 3 months. Are there any thoughts as to?
I'm not opposed to discussing anything. I don't know how, I'm not sure how I feel about it, but I'm not opposed to discussing anything, so.
Yeah, I'm in the same ballpark, and the only thing is sometimes my personal schedule is a little dynamic, so it helps to know that the meeting 2 weeks, away, that we need to move, and having one meeting a month, that kind of locks us in, and we're all, except for you in January, will be working and not retired, so we'll you know, may be subject to our work schedules. I know Mr. Sealy travels a bit. If he's told he's got to travel next week and that's the one board meeting of the month, it could become an issue. But, you know, I'm willing to discuss it and try it if that's what we're going to do.
I think we can do the same thing as we do now. When we know that there's an issue, most of us know pretty much now as to what's going on. Because pretty much we've been pretty successful over the years to only have change meetings, you know, when we plan vacations or something of those lines. Yeah, that's something we need to.
One of my concerns is we frequently have comments during the first two sections of the agenda, just like this evening. This meeting would have to start 2:30 or 3 o'clock in the afternoon. A lot of those folks wouldn't be able to attend. And I think public being able to observe, and we've had quite a few folks lately watching, that I think we impact their ability to actually come and at least listen to what's going on. That's one of my primary concerns. Is that we have to start so much earlier, and I think we'd be locking some folks out that normally would be here.
What time did we actually say we want to start?
3 o'clock is probably right.
One meeting,
No later than 4:30.
See, and that's a long, I mean,
If you're gonna have a break for dinner, you almost have to start. I would say 4:30 like you used to start.
I know that there are a number of counties, a lot of counties that say that larger than we are, that's one meeting a month. And it works out well for most of our staff. But again, I just throw it out as something to discuss and look at and determine. You know, if we can save ourselves, you know, $17,000, $20,000, $25,000 a year, then I think it's something we need to consider as a county.
I just look at tonight's agenda, it's probably one of the lightest agendas we've had in a long time, and it's now 10:25. So if this were, and again, we had a meeting a week ago, and we're still here till 10:25. So I guess that's my concern, is that if we meet once a month, we actually condense, the agenda's gonna be probably twice as long, and we could be here far later than we are now, even starting at 3 o'clock.
All right, well, is there any need to put it on the agenda for January as an item to discuss?
I don't have any problem discussing it. Like I said, I don't know how I feel about it. And you know, there's points on both ends of that. And I think it warrants at least some discussion, formally, at least to the public, see what they think. Because that way, in open session, and I think that's fair enough. You know, like I said, I don't have I'm kind of torn right now anyway.
Can we put it on our webpage?
We could do that. Yeah.
And you could have people vote on it.
Yeah.
And Mr. Chairman, could I, what I would like to do maybe just prepare 2 calendars for January. Have one that would include one meeting, one that would be the regular standard calendar, and I would include the cost savings that would be. Because there is a savings, I mean, no question. Now, maybe not in time, but there is a savings in cost related to only having one meeting. That's just, you can just look and think off the top of your head what most of that savings would be. So why don't I do that? And if members have any opinions, like, in other words, if we had one meeting, would it stay the second Tuesday? Would you want it to be the fourth Tuesday? I'm just, you know, what Tuesday of the month? Because I think you would want to stay on Tuesday, since that is a regular time. But do you want the first Tuesday or the second Tuesday? If you have any idea where your work schedule is or what your vacation plans might be, maybe, you know, and again, if you're only trying it for 3 or 4 months. So that's what we'll do. We'll prepare 2 calendars, and then the board could consider which one they want.
Sounds good.
Okay.
Is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
Motion made by Popowitz, seconded by Mr. Sealy. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. Meeting adjourned. Meeting adjourned.